Well, hello, everybody. It's me, Stephen Billings here, and we are here for another episode of the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter, based on the book with the foreword by Robert Osborne. Dan, would you please, I don't know if you have the book nearby you. He's going to get the book. He's coming back, guys. Just wait. Be patient. Be patient. Here it is. Dan, say something.
I have the book right here.
There is the book. It's got a foreword by Robert Osborne. Yes, as you know by now, Dan Skip Allen is with me. How you doing, Dan?
Hey, I'm doing great. I can't wait to talk about White Heat. I am a huge James Cagney fan. In a few days, I'll be watching the movie that I love the most from James Cagney, because when we're recording this is around a certain very patriotic holiday.
Okay. Well, I have to say, this was actually the first time I've ever seen White Heat. So this will be a very different, you got somebody that's seen it many times with Dan, and then you got somebody from my perspective who's just seen the movie for the first time. So White Heat's movie, 1949. It's a crime kind of gangster film. It stars James Cagney as our kind of lead character, Cody Jarrett, and you have Virginia Mayo plays his girlfriend, who is Verna Jarrett, and then you have Edmund O'Neill playing Hank Fallon, who is this undercover cop. His undercover name is Vic Pardo, and you also have James Cagney's character's mother in the movie, Ma, as he's mostly calls her the whole movie. And then you have this lead investigator who's the U.S. Treasury guy, played by Evans. Evans is the character's name, Investigator Evans. So this movie is very much, to me, very much a foundational crime gangster film that is, I could see a lot of influences to like Martin Scorsese, in this, and we'll get into essentials near the end, but Dan, do you want to start off with some of the characters?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You get this movie, and it's kind of like one of these Fast and Furious kind of deals where they're off and running, doing a bank robbery right off the bat in this film, and you get to see who's the boss. It's not one of these other guys. It's Cody Jarrett, James Cagney. I'm the boss. You don't mess around. Oh, you want to mess around? Boom, you're dead. Just like that. He shoots you as soon as he looks at you. And I'll tell you what, this is a phenomenal performance by James Cagney. This is one of his centennial films in his filmography. If you don't know James Cagney, what are you doing? Go watch some James Cagney films. This guy's phenomenal. And this is one of the peak films on his filmography. And White Heat is considered one of the forerunners of gangster films for people like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Scarface. Who's the director of Scarface again?
Brian De Palma.
Brian De Palma. People like that. They took a lot of license from White Heat and some of these James Cagney films of the early days. And also, if you're a fan of Bugs Bunny and some of those Looney Tunes type of characters, you might hear a little bit of him in some of that kind of stuff, because it's like a homage. Like, people use the James Cagney of Cody Jarrett character as like a homage for kind of the way people talked in the 40s and 50s. It's kind of funny how people associate that today as the way people talked back then. But pretty much it was James Cagney playing all these kind of gangsters back in the day.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. The whole, see, hey, yeah, I kill you, see? Yeah, maybe not that bad, but it's there, definitely there. So like you said, this movie starts off like with a bang. You got this bank robbery that's a train, and he's got guys on the inside. He's got, on the train that get the train to stop, and then his guys jump on and they blow the door off the train, and it's a really good opening. And from there they the cops are on them. They're after them. They get away, but then shortly after, as you find out with James Cagney's character, he has this kind of weird closeness with his mother. It's very essential to this character. He kind of has this unhealthy, you know, closeness. You know, there's nothing wrong with being close with your mom, but when you're like you're a middle-aged person, and you know everything you say every few seconds is "ma this" and "my," you know, kind of like a Forrest Gump thing, you know, without being retarded. Sorry if I offend anybody, but they, you know, it's a little off-putting, but it's very interesting. Makes him a very interesting character. And part of that is that his father was somebody that died in an insane asylum, so he didn't have much going for him. The only person he's ever really looked up to is his mom, so he just looks to his mom for everything. What comes out to you about the character? How does that, you know, how do you feel about that part of that character?
Well, the thing is, his father dying in an insane asylum, and we learn throughout the movie that has affected him with like headaches, and he's got like these kind of migraine headaches, and really the only soothing thing in his life was his mother. That was it. He had to do everything he did was for his mother. He survived, and then he thrived or he failed based on his relationship with his mother and everything he did. And she actually, you know, we'll get into that a little bit. She actually kind of runs some of his affairs for him. And that's how close they are. He doesn't trust his second in command guy or any of his like guys that work for him, some of his cronies that work for him. He trusts only his mother. He has only trusted his mother. So when something is going on in this film involving his mother, he just flips the switch, and he's just even worse. He is such a psychotic killer in this film. I mean, it's ridiculous. And he does love his mother. That's the only soothing influence he has.
Yeah, and so going into the plot more, after they've already kind of escaped the cops, now his mother goes out to buy him food, strawberries or something like that. I can't remember. So, you know, and then kind of sets him off a little bit because, you know, they kind of his girlfriend kind of makes fun of the fact that, you know, his mother had to go out and get him something because that's what your mom does, you know, and it kind of makes him upset. And this is what ends up getting him kind of caught. You know, the cops are on her tail. They know you know, they try to follow her back to the base. She kind of eludes them, but all in all, they've kind of found out that he's in town. And so instead of trying to really run away, Jarrett decides that he's going to get caught. He's going to turn him. He's going to surrender to play the long game. You know, to let everybody else get away, basically. And so, you know, they pull into a drive-in. They come up with this whole plan that they're gonna, you know, he's gonna surrender. I might spend a couple years in prison. They don't got really anything else on me. So he does that. What do you think of that whole decision?
Well, the thing is, you know, I love some of these, you know, what I love about these classic films is you get to see like the telephones and some of the ways that the police do their work. They have this whole following system with car A, car B, and car C. Have this elaborate following, and this old lady still finds a way to get away from these guys. It was kind of funny, and if they didn't kind of stumble on the car afterwards, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I think he had this plan of, well, no one's going to mess with me if I go to prison. I'm going to be the king of the jail. So I'll just go to prison for a couple of years. I'll get out. I'll let my guys do some work for me while I'm in there. And little does he know that the police are on to him, and they put Detective Fallon in there as Vic Pardo. And Vic is going to try to worm his way into his crew and get in there and be buddies with Cody Jarrett. Because he's got all these guys. One guy can read lips, and I mean, he's got a bunch of cronies in there.
Yeah, I mean, really, you know, Detective, you know, U.S. Treasury Evans sends this cop, this character in to see if they can figure out what other crimes that he has done, trying to figure out who else is on his crew, other people that are involved, and this is the part of what really reminds me of like. You know, more recent films like The Departed, or like the Raid films, the second Raid film, where you have a character that kind of goes in undercover to try to get in good with the bad guy. I love the influence there. And for me, the other thing that kind of is going on the side there is that one of the crew members is kind of having an affair with the girl, the wife on the side there. So that's going on. And,
Big Ed.
What's that?
Big Ed.
Yeah, Big Ed. And mother, as he's in prison, his mother checks in with him and tells him what's going on and everything like that. And, we go through a little portion of the film where we kind of have a prison film, which is kind of cool. You go through about a good 30 minutes of the movie that's just a prison movie. It changes the whole landscape. And, give us some details about this portion of the film, Dan.
I'll tell you what, these prison movies are interesting because each prison in all the different eras of the different movies that have come out with prison, they all have their just kind of niches, like and the clothes and each era, all these movies are different. You see the kind of evolution of the prison life. And this film's in 1949, so it's kind of there's a bunch of white guys in there. There ain't a lot of black guys in there. And they all have kind of this kind of accent, this tough guy accent. And when you have a kingpin type of character like Cody Jarrett, he basically runs the whole prison. And they're making stuff, license plates and stuff. Nowadays, you don't have a lot of that kind of stuff going on in prison. These guys are too dangerous to let them be working in a workshop or give it a weapon.
These guards are almost useless, man. There's a scene in the middle of it where going into a big major plot point, he finds out while he's in prison that his mother was killed, and he just goes nuts. They're in the middle of the kitchen, they're in the cafeteria, they're eating, and his guys tell him, his mother's dead, and he just starts just going nuts. And just every guard tries to stop him. He punches them out. They're like stormtroopers. They can't shoot. These guys can't even take down one dude with no weapon. And he's just punching them one time, knocking them on the ground. And it finally takes 4 or 5 of them to carry them away. It's a great scene, though, because I like how the director, which is Raul, what was his last name? Raul Walsh. And I like how he shot this scene. He got some wide shots, and you really see the scope of that huge cafeteria, and everybody in there are just seeing this go down. And then when he leaves the room, everybody goes back to business. Everybody goes back to eating because you only have so much time to eat. So you go back to eating.
And then you got the scene where once the mom's dead, Big Ed thinks, okay, well, I can plan the assassination of Cody, and then I'll be in charge. That doesn't go exactly as planned.
No, yeah. Basically they set up a way to get him out of prison, to send him to an insane asylum, and Cody's just a step ahead of him, and his guy on the inside, who is actually Fallon, who is now gotten in good with Cody, helps him basically escape, him and some of his other guys, and they get him a gun. They pretend to go. They get out, and they escape, and he gets the drop on Big Ed and comes in and kills him. Even though apparently it was his wife who actually killed his mother. So it's a very messed up situation. Some of that kind of reminds me of like some Goodfellas kind of stuff, like some very dysfunctional gangster family. But from there, they are held up in a place. They're getting to know, the crew's getting to know each other, and they're going to plan a big heist on this chemical plant. And you have this guy that shows up, and he pretends to be some random traveler, and he actually is like a guy he's well connected with. Cody's well connected with, and he's showing them the plans to the plant, and they decide they're going to do it in a more like a Trojan horse style of entry. what did you think about this whole idea?
Well, going back to the assassination of the mother and then Big Ed, you know, I know Cody kind of has an idea that it's the girlfriend or the wife, that she's got something to do with it, and she's kind of trying to play dumb about it and say, "Oh no, it's Big Ed." You know, I think he's not stupid enough to realize that she wasn't involved in the assassination of his mother, but he kind of wants her. He kind of needs her to kind of, in a way, replace his mother. In a way, so he keeps her around as that kind of someone he can kiss and love and hug and so forth. But he kind of knows in the back of his head that she might have had something to do with it the whole time. Now, I love the plan we used in the tanker truck and using. I thought the plan was really cool. That guy showing up. I forgot that guy was the inside man, the kind of the trainer guy, the trader guy that he works with. And once I saw him, I was like, oh, okay, that's that guy. And they really had a good plan, except once again, our inside man, Vic Pardo, kind of figures things out and gives Evans a heads up on the whole deal. And I was rooting for him, but I'm kind of rooting for Cody too, because he's a larger than life character.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Joker situation. You love the Joker. Everything he does is awful, but he's such an interesting character that you kind of feel a little bit endeared to him in a way, and he's obviously had a very weird upbringing, bad upbringing, so that kind of plays into why he's the way he is. So you feel a little bit for him, a little bit, but he's a person. He makes his own decisions, and you're just ready to see where the adventure goes. And at the end, Vic decides to make his move on the guys, which I'll be honest with you was kind of dumb. It was like him versus like 6 other people, and he thought he was gonna like stop 6 people from, with one gun. And
the police officers guys interfered, and he was able to escape.
Yeah, and then it starts a big shootout. You got a bunch of cops, and Cagney is being as Cagney as he can be, starting to go really crazy again. Come and get me, coppers. He was a copper the whole time. I was about to split my money with a copper. He's saying copper.
I love that. A copper, eh? A copper. I was going to split my money with a copper, eh? That's who talks like that? I mean, that's what's so cool.
Nobody talks like that besides him.
James Cagney's just one of a kind. I mean, none of them actors back in the day were like James Cagney. That's why he's such a great actor,
Yeah. And so now, after basically all his crew has been kind of taken out, besides him and one of his other cronies, they get to this tank. They start to climb up it. His only Padre cut left decides he wants to surrender, and Cagney's like, "No, you're not surrendering," and he shoots him. He shoots his own guy just because he decided he wanted to surrender, and he's the only one left. He's up on the tower. He has nowhere to go, and they have a guy with a rifle, and they just trying to shoot him down, just trying to take him out. And as he's trying to do it, they're hitting the tank, and fire is starting to just explode out of the tank. And as he's doing it, what's the line, Dan?
I'm at the top of the world. That is considered one of the greatest quotes. You go and look in the AFI's 100 quotes of all time. That quote from James Cagney in White Heat is one of the greatest quotes of all time. He tells his mother, this is kind of like they're alluding to this situation and earlier in the movie with his relationship with his mother. And so when he knows he's gonna die and it's all gonna be over, and he goes up in a blaze of glory, I'm at the top of the world, Ma. I mean, God, it's just such a great scene. Only Cody Jarrett, only James Cagney can go out like that. You tell me anybody else in movie history that went out like that.
I'm sure if I had more time to think about it, there might be some other great examples of that. But it only made me think of, for some reason, made me think of Titanic. I'm the king of the world.
Yeah.
Which they didn't die right after, but it's a very similar situation of sorts. But yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic, the shot itself of just flames just bursting out of the tank right behind him as he said, it's amazing shot. So getting into why is this film essential? Why is this essential? For me, I think the biggest thing I took out of it, being a first time watcher, is that it definitely is an influential gangster film. It's just it's got an obvious effect on other filmmakers, like we said earlier, throughout history, and a lot of staples. The kind of a Bonnie and Clyde esque kind of stuff going on. Some of the situational things that happened in the film, like having an undercover cop and just all that stuff like that, really is stuff that's been done over and over again so many times since. And I think it's got a legacy. It's definitely a movie that, even if you don't think it maybe stands the test of time in the sense of its aesthetics and its acting and stuff, you have to say that its writing and its ideas are what still definitely stand the test of time. So what about you, Dan?
No, you hit the nail on the head. This is 1949. They don't have a lot of themes like this in movies, where the themes of the father being dying in a psychiatric ward, and then him having the attachments with the mother, and then being so kind of this crazy, psychotic, crazy, where he doesn't trust anybody around him, and then and the girl that supposedly is his girlfriend or his wife or whatever, she doesn't even love him because he's so crazy. And then you got, like you said, you have the whole thing going on with the police and whatnot like that. There's so many themes weaving throughout this movie that are seamless. These are such seamless storylines within the entire script of the movie, but it doesn't take away from the main character. And the title of the film is called White Heat. Well, that not only refers to the end of the movie because he goes up in a blaze of glory, but it's also the Cody Jarrett character. White heat. He is white hot. He is so just inside of his body, inside of his brain. He's just so just explosive of a character and explosive of a personality. At the time this film came out, there was nobody like this. We've never seen a character like this. And I think there's only one person in the history of television that could have, or movies that could have played a character like this. And James Cagney, in the prime of his career, he is a larger-than-life actor. He is a larger-than-life character in himself. So who else would you have play this character? And like you said, all the influences after this in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and so forth. It's just a phenomenal film. And once again, these films that we're talking about, there is a theme of how all these other films that have come after these films and how many people use the bits and pieces and kind of storylines and kind of dialogue and different types of characters. That's why these are essential films, because they're such beloved films decades later. And all the filmmakers that we get today, they're the ones that are making these movies, and they're taking off of these characters. And this is the essential gangster film, the first of a great era of gangster films that came afterwards from Coppola and Scorsese and all these people like that. And that's why I think it's such an essential movie. And if you're going to have a 52 must-see movies and why they matter, you got to put a James Cagney film on there. I mean, that's a must.
Well, they definitely they agreed with you, man. They put it in the book, and definitely check out that book if you want to know more about some of these films that we're doing these videos for. Just go check the book out. Go to your local Barnes and Nobles. Go find it, and we're reached the end here. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. I'd like to thank Dan Skip Allen. Where can we find you, Dan?
You can always find me at the Best Damn Movie Show on YouTube, where I do another show called the Top 5 Weekly. We have plenty of episodes of the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter. It's a 52 film series. But mainly you can find me at Dan Skip Bound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, or at From the Fourth Row.
And I'm Stephen Billings. You can find me primarily on Film Club Central. I do a lot of stuff on there. And you can find, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. And this is another episode of the 52 Must-See Movies and Why They Matter on the Best Damn Movie Show channel. And we will see you on the next one, guys. Thanks.
Yes, we have a very special episode coming next week, so stay tuned for that one. Good night.